I am John Kaiser at the Metals Investor Forum in Vancouver, January 19th, 2019. I am speaking with Graham Downs of ATAC Resources. Graham, welcome to Vancouver.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
ATAC is one of my favorites. It has been a bottom fish for quite a few years. We had a spectacular run the first time around, all the way from 30 cents to $10, but now we've gone full circle almost a decade later back to 25.30. $100 million have been spent on what drove the stock to $10 during that period on what looks like a Carlin scale system. You have the Carlin Pathfinders. You have announced a resource estimate, 1.7 million ounces of about 4 gram. But your focus this year is shifting back to where everything started at the western end, the Rao area. And I'd like to talk about that. But first, tell us, after you spent all this money in the sort of eastern third of this project, what have you learned about the endowment potential of this area? Is this something that absolutely has to be returned to and you're just giving it a bit of a pause right now? Or have you kind of maxed out what it is that's there to be found?
So with the eastern end at the Orion and Osiris, the Carlin style mineralization, I mean, what we found over the years there is there's still a lot of potential out there. We did put that maiden resource out this year, almost 1.7 million ounces at over 4 grams, which is the second highest grade open pit grade resource over 1 million ounces. So, there's not a lot of them out there. But the key thing to that is that, it's why it is open in many directions. The Conrad, the Osiris, and the Ibis, which make up those zones, are open. And we did drill in 2018, and one of those holes was over 20 meters of almost 10 grams. So there's a lot of room to expand that resources, and we can definitely do that. But you're right. We're probably going to go back to the western end for sure to do some work. We've got some incredibly exciting mineralization being found around the Rakla Pluton. That was probably the driving source for the Tiger Gold deposit there and the Ocelot Silver Lead Zinc zone that we drilled. But there's some unfinished business there. There's a lot of potential there. And what we're finding around that Pluton is we're finding high-grade gold and copper skarn mineralization, and we're really at the infancy of learning, what's there. There's a kill zone, vegetation kill zone there. There's abundant gold and copper mineralization, and it's really littered over a kilometer by a kilometer area, and we've got to get back in there and test that.
Now, Barrick spent $10 million as part of a 3-year commitment, and it did this in 2 years, and it pulled out this year, and this has helped your stock down to a really lucrative price for bottom fishers. When I saw the results, I mean, they were intersecting decent gold grades and in various different locations. Have you reviewed this data? And maybe Barrick walked because they didn't find a humongous deposit right staring at their face, but is there unfinished business in the work that they did that would not require like large-scale regional exploration, where you could go back in there and start stitching these intersections together into something substantial?
Absolutely. One of the key things to remember is that portion of the project that we allowed Barrick to earn in was a very early stage area. It did not include the Osiris and our deposit there, or our resource out there. And when the targeting was done over the couple of years that Barrick was in, we have a lot of untested targets that still remain, and we have a lot of the information. I think the key thing, obviously with the Randgold Barrick merger, that was part of the reason they probably backed out. But we did a quarter of all the holes they drilled. Every one of the holes that they drilled in the Anubis Fault intersected gold, and good gold grade, like 10 grams over 7.5 meters, and over a 2.5 kilometer area. There is a lot of room to expand that Anubis Fault mineralization.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned during your talk that zones like the Tiger, for which even a PEA has been done, are still open. Why would they not have been drilled to their limits during the initial cycle between 2009 to 2011?
It's a great question. What happened is that we were doing that. We were doing the work on building out Tiger, and then we had that silver lead zinc, high grade silver lead zinc mineralization that we drilled when we were focused at the western end. But it wasn't until when we made the Carlin-style discoveries in 2009 and 10, we immediately put all of our resources out to the eastern end, and rightfully so. I mean, we were finding high-grade gold mineralization at surface, and we put all of our efforts into that. So people kind of forgot about it, and that's what got us up to the billion-dollar market cap for that brief time back in 2011. But we'd always done a little bit of work. We didn't project it to the market because we knew the potential out there. We were always doing a small amount of work out there. And really, it was just because we were refocused on the eastern end.
Now, in the raw area, there's a pluton. You call it a pluton. An intrusion, you call it the Rakla intrusion. It seems to be the heat engine for all this mineralization that has shown up in the carbonates that surround that. And you mentioned now that you think this thing could be mineralized. That it could actually be a porphyry system and not some barren intrusion like the word Pluton suggests. What would you need to do this year to check and just see what is this thing actually made of?
Absolutely. So what we're seeing is indications of kind of a classic system where you have that intrusion that's plumbing the system in the area, and you see that radiating away, like the carbonate replacement Tiger, drilled, confirmed. You got the Manto silver lead zinc, confirmed. Now you're seeing the skarn at surface. We've never drilled it. We want to confirm that, and in that process, we also want to learn more about that intrusion and what it's doing. And we don't know if it's mineralized, and we nicked it a few years ago on a kind of a wildcat hole where we got a couple meters and it was sub-gram gold in that, maybe a dike, we're not totally sure. But what we're going to do is we're finalizing our geophysics program, and once we have that teed up, we'll be doing that early in the spring, and we'll be following that up with the more detailed mapping where we can see outcrop, prospecting, soil sampling, and pitting, which is going to give us a lot more information. And then we hope to be drilling that in kind of mid-season through. So that'll be phase one, and we'll definitely be doing that.
Now that whole area around the Rakla intrusion, and I like to refer to Peter McGaw's hub and spoke model for CRD systems. Have you got a comprehensive soil geochemical database surrounding that? And are there higher concentrations of copper in one area, like say the eastern side of the intrusion, the Bobcat zone, where you're going to be doing a fair bit of target development work this year, maybe even drilling in September? What is the sort of geochemical distribution in that area?
Well, what we're seeing is it's challenging because there's a thin veneer of cover that we think are masking the geochem. But what we are seeing is we're seeing high silver, we're seeing high tin as well. So we're going to correlate that. We do see copper, a little bit more subdued, but I mean, they're all indicators, and we definitely are seeing linears that are important, and we need to tie all of that together. We're going to be hiring an expert or getting an advisor to help us put all of that together, make sure that we're doing the right geophysics and help us. I mean, we're comfortable with what we're doing, but it's like when we found the Carlin-style mineralization, we brought on Harry Cook and brought on Ed Cope, who is expert. You want the right people, the right science, and to do it right, and we're going to be systematic about doing that. So we're going to do that with the geochem. We do have quite a bit of coverage, but we definitely need to do more. I mean, if you look at the Bobcat, we have a great geochem anomaly there. A couple kilometers to the north of that, we also have the Spotlight, which is also probably intrusion related. We see skarn mineralization. I mean, we're seeing up to 7,000 grams per ton silver up there, as well as multi-gram gold as well. So we want to put all of that together, do those geochem grids, and really piece it together, because we're seeing a lot of mineralization scattered through the area.
So the glacial overburden, is it coming from those rocks to the north that really have not much of interest in it, and that's obscuring much of the terrain in the Rao area?
No, it'll probably be just localized. So just a small portion of localized. We only think it's a couple meters to maybe 10, 15, and we're not sure for sure, but there shouldn't be a thick overburden in that area. Yeah, which is good.
And Barrick is still a 19.9 or so percent shareholder. Any idea what their stance is going to be going forward now that they have a new CEO?
Good question. We've talked to them. We have a great relationship. We had a really good partnership with Barrick, and I think they really want to see us succeed. They are shareholders, so we've had some conversations with them, and right now they're happy to see where we can move Attack forward.
So there has been sort of an industry trend of the bigger guys acquiring strategic stakes in juniors, 19.9%, without having rights to any of the projects in there. So hopefully they are now getting into that groove, which companies like Agnico Eagle and Goldcorp have done. Of course, Goldcorp's being absorbed by Newmont, so that's an unfortunate development. But this could be good that they now see you as like a key outsourced exploration department, especially given that they're axing so much of their own internal exploration capacity.
Absolutely, and we've had conversations. We're happy to help out and look at any opportunities that are out there. Yeah.
Okay, I have been talking to Graham Downs of ATAC Resources in Vancouver. Thank you, Graham.
Thank you.